Hey guys, it's Jeff from Pressure Luck, and I wanted to do another soup recipe because it is soup season after all. That was gonna be different and unique and just awesome at the same time. But I also wanted it to be as simple as ABC. A little light bulb went off over my head because we're gonna be making ABC chowder. Apple, bacon, cheddar, chowder. It's gonna be one of those situations where you're like, what, at first? Because I kind of even was like that. But I am so excited to share it with you because it's going to take center stage at so many tables, I hope, during the colder, chillier months. It is a wonderful soup that is gonna provide such rich, delicious, sweet and savory flavor, as well as comfort. So we're gonna go right on over to that Instant Pot and not even worry about our spelling skills because this soup is truly as delicious and simple to do as ABC. Let's go. So let's talk prep for this dish. There's a little bit to be done in terms of peeling and dicing. You know what though? You can't really do this soup without it, but it's all gonna be worth it. It's simple, or just grab someone and have them help you out. Cash in on that favor they owe you. I want to take 6 apples, and what I'm using is a mix of 3 Gala apples and 3 Fuji apples. I don't really want to use Granny Smith for these. I don't want the soup to really be tart. I think these are the perfect combination. Any type of red apple really will be alright. I'm also using between 1.5 to 2 pounds of russet or Idaho potato and 1 Vidalia or sweet onion. And what I want to do with all of those, and there you go, I've peeled and diced the apples and potatoes, and you notice that I just mix them together, and it's very hard to tell them apart once they're peeled and diced. However, since they're all going in at the same time, that's no big deal. And I also just diced and, well, obviously you always peel an onion, and I diced that onion up as well. That was a Vidalia or sweet onion. Also, I had a whole pound of bacon. You can use regular cut, thick cut, and I used applewood because, you know, I figured go with the theme. And I also diced that up. It's best to take bacon when you just pull it out of the package and it's nice and firm, slice it as it's already attached to each other, all the slices, and then just try to give it a little bit of a dice. It's much easier to do that way than if it's kind of just at room temperature. Alright, so now that all that annoying prep is out of the way, this is literally the most challenging part of the whole recipe, and it's not hard. It's just, you know, some peeling and dicing, you know. We're gonna go onto the pot and start cooking. Alright, so now that we're ready to cook, I wanna go to the pot and I wanna add in 1/4 stick or 2 tablespoons of salted butter. Alright, now let's hit the saute button and make sure we're on the more or high setting. Okay, now that the butter is melted and bubbling, I want to take that bacon that we've nicely diced up and add that to the pot. And I'm going to now saute the bacon in the butter, and I want to give it a little bit of a stir so it breaks up. A lot of the bacon's still stuck to each other. And then we're going to let this saute between 12 to 15 minutes. I know that sounds like a lot of time, but trust me, it's what's needed to get this bacon nice and crispy. Just come back every so often and give it a stir. What we want this to do is get sufficiently crispy, this bacon. So it's a lot of just, you know, stirring around for a bit and then letting it just set and then cook. And after about a couple of minutes of sauteing the bacon, you're going to see it's going to begin to release a lot of liquid. That's perfect. We're going to want that in there, not only for the bacon to cook and simmer, but also for a rich base when we also saute our onion next. And about 7 minutes have passed, and you see we have a lot of bacon grease mixed in with that butter now, which is wonderful. You see the bacon is starting to cook nicely. It's turning that wonderful color, that nice deep brownish red color that we love with bacon. But in the meantime, you're going to see the bottom of the pot starting to get browned from all the bacon being caked on there. That happens all the time with bacon. Don't worry, that's all going to come up after we get this bacon out of the pot. Alright, so after about 15 minutes, you're going to see a nice foam situation going on in the pot. What I want to do now is I want to take my slotted spoon and look at that perfectly cooked bacon. And I want to take the bacon, put it in a paper towel lined bowl, and just reserve it for later. Get all the bacon out of that pot. Alright, and there we have it, all that bacon. We're going to come back to that later, let that rest. And now it's time to add that onion to the pot. Then we're going to saute our onion in that wonderful reserved bacon juice, grease, whatever you want to call it, mixed with our butter. And we're going to saute the onion for about 3 minutes. And as we saute the onions, as they cook in this deliciousness, they are going to release water. And this is going to be a great way to start deglazing the bottom of the pot, scraping up all the brown bits left over from the bacon, because bacon does like to stick to the bottom of stainless steel, as well as garlic does, which we're not using in this recipe. But don't worry, we're really gonna get that all up right now because we're gonna add in a half a cup of a beer of your choice. I prefer a lighter type of beer for this. I'm using Budweiser. You can also use an IPA. And now get in there and really scrape the bottom of the pot. Get everything up. It's gonna come up magically. Alcohol has that power, as does Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire. Sauce. Look at that. Almost looks like a roux. Now, if you don't drink beer, you don't have to add it. That's fine. Just add in a half a cup of regular broth in this stage, just to scrape the bottom up. Next up, I'm going to add in 3 cups of a broth of your choice. I'm using garlic broth for this, but you don't have to use garlic broth. You can use any broth you want. You can use chicken broth, you can use ham broth, you can use whatever. And I'm going to add in 1 cup of 100% juice apple juice. There you go. I know this sounds crazy so far, doesn't it? Almost feel like it's like a kid just having fun and throwing things into the pot, but trust me, it's all gonna work out. Let's add in 1.5 cups of either dry or rubbed sage. You could find this in the spice section, the same thing. Did I say 1.5 cups? I meant 1.5 teaspoons. That's 1.5 teaspoons. And we're gonna stir that in. All that dried or rubbed sage, really the same thing, in with our broth. Now it is time to add in all those apples and potatoes. We're gonna do this kind of carefully. We don't want it to splash everywhere. And now we're gonna just smooth this out so everything's nice and submerged. And voila. That's all we have to do before we pressure cook. All right, let's secure that lid. Make sure that we're in the sealing position. Come back down to the control panel, hit the cancel button, and then we're gonna hit the pressure cook, a manual button depending on your model, and we wanna pressure cook for 8 minutes at high pressure. That's it. And now that we're done pressure cooking, we'll perform a quick release. And the pin just dropped, so now let's check out our soup. And there she is. Okay, now what I wanna do is I wanna take a slotted spoon and I want to reserve about 2 cups of my apples and potatoes. Just whatever the mixture is here, about 2 cups. Some of the onions will fall into that as well. Okay, perfect. It's like a 2-cup measuring cup and it just basically went to the top. And now it is the fun part. It is time to meet our friend again, the immersion blender or the stick blender. This is a blender that has a little blade here you manage by hand, and it does it directly in the pot. No more having to take this in batches to a blender and get all messy. Forget about that. We're gonna do it all in the pot. We're gonna blend everything that's in here right now up. There we go. Perfectly blended. Love it. And you'll see the consistency is really nice right about now. But we're not done yet, my friends. It's time to really finish this off and send it home. I'm going to add in now 1 cup of heavy cream, or you can use half and half, as well as between 2 to 4 cups of shredded cheddar cheese. You could start with 2 and always add more. Okay, now we want to stir everything in the pot up to make sure the cheese blends nicely into the soup and the cream goes in with it. It's gonna be beautiful. I love that you can see like traces of the cheese, like yellow in there. It's beautiful. And now some final seasonings. 1 teaspoon of celery salt. 1/4 teaspoon each of nutmeg and apple pie spice. Believe it or not, that's gonna be really great for this soup. And 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of either Tony Chachere's, which is one of my favorite things. I use the Creole seasoning, or you can use seasoned salt, and I like Lawry's, Lawry''s if you're using seasoned salt. That's gonna be delicious. We're gonna stir that into our soup. We're gonna return those reserved apples, potatoes, and onion. Give it some nice heartiness in there. And that bacon that's been resting the whole time and you probably snuck a few pieces of. I'm not judging you, but just don't do too much. Add most of the bacon, but reserve some for garnish at the end for some of the bowls. And now stir everything together in the pot. And now it's time to ladle it into bowls. And there's my beautiful soup all ladled out. Now to top it off at the end, you could add some additional bacon pieces there. Gonna have some left over. Maybe a little bit more cheddar around the edges. And perhaps just a little bit of more apple pie spice on top. Another really nice way to top off the soup is to put a dollop of some apple butter also in the middle. You don't have to, it's totally optional. You can get this in the market, obviously. Usually in this section where there's like preserves, you'll find apple butter. And then you can just mix everything up together in the soup before you try it out. And it's a really nice way to also just give it an extra sweet burst to the savory that's going on in that soup. All right, now let's try this out. Okay, my friends, and here it is. Apple, bacon, cheddar, chowder, ABC chowder. I'm gonna try it without the apple butter first. That's a delicious, rich, sweet, and savory soup equivalent there. And now I'm gonna mix the apple butter in and give this a shot. See what we think. And here we go. That just added a much thicker layer of sweet to the soup, but not to the point where it's overpowering it. It complements it really well. I would highly suggest if you're adding apple butter, don't just add it to the entire pot unless it's to everyone's liking, but rather add a dollop to a bowl and then stir it in. I think that's the best way you're gonna work out with the apple butter in this one. This is like one of those heritage style soups, you know what I mean? Like something you'd have in like the harvest table, the fall, the winter for sure. The combination of apple with cheese and potato and bacon. It's almost like a fondue situation when you think about it. It works really nicely. The beer gives it a nice slight undertone. It doesn't come through very strongly at all. And again, it's optional if you're not into the beer. The apples just melt in your mouth. Also, when you add the reserved apples back, they really melt in your mouth. Look, do you see the little apple here? Look. Just swallowed it like butter. Literally melted in my mouth. The key seasonings for that soup are definitely going to be either your Creole seasoning or seasoned salt, depending on which one you go for. The Creole seasoning is going to give you a slight extra kick to it. It has a little bit of spice in there. I love that, but you don't have to. You can go with seasoned salt. A little bit of that nutmeg and apple pie spice, and definitely that teaspoon of celery salt at the end. Really, really nice. Mwah! Highly recommended. So there you have it, ABC Chowder. If you enjoy simple recipes like these that are really delicious and could be even a little unique, just like this one, check out pressurelowcooking.com because I have a lot more there waiting for you to just say, hello, try me. I also wrote 3 cookbooks that are currently out. They're all called the Step-by-Step Instant Pot Cookbook. The original one's orange, the lighter one is blue, the comfort food one is yellow, and the 4th one comes out in April of 2023. That's super shortcut Instant Pot. Even easier than this recipe, certainly much less prep work than this recipe, but everything is so delicious in that book. It's the green book, comes out in April. Follow me at facebook.com/pressurelowcooking. Definitely give that page a like. Check it again and make sure that it's in your favorites, so you make sure it comes up in your feed. Sometimes it reverts back on its own. Sneaky over there, Facebook. And at Pressure Low Cooking at all the other social channels that exist, I guess. Thank you so much again, guys. ABC Chowder awaits. I already ate the whole thing. Nice.